Hey, this is Bradley Benner with Semantic Links, and this is the third installment in the pre-sales nurture sequence where I'm just explaining our process and why it works. So this is really specifically about one of the things that we do for our link building clients, which is we have an on-page analysis or a full SEO audit service. That's what it is, where we can analyze the campaign through the four main components that make up a successful SEO campaign when it comes to local marketing. And it's not something that is required, but I will typically recommend it if throughout the competitive link analysis process, we determine that there are on-page issues that should be addressed. So let me explain what I mean. Whenever we do a competitive link analysis, which is always the first step to ever providing any suggestions for links or recommendations for any of our services, we always require a competitive link analysis report because that is the data that helps us inform the decisions about what the campaign specifically needs in order to perform better. So when we do that, I always have to analyze or at least review the on-page factors for the campaign, because if we just recommend links without glancing at the on-page factors and if there are on-page optimization issues that should be addressed, and we don't bring that to your attention, and then we just recommend links, then what happens? Well, you'll start purchasing, we'll start building links and the campaign won't respond the way that it should. And then you're going to blame us and our links as not being effective. And so I've learned over time as running a white label link building agency that we really need to analyze or at least look at the on-page factors when we are doing a competitive analysis report, so that if there's anything that stands out as being, subpar or that can be improved, I will bring that to your attention. And then that's when I will typically recommend a full SEO audit. So I'm just here to tell you about our full SEO audit process and how, what we're looking for and why it's important. I'm not here to pitch you on that service right now. If it's necessary, then I'm going to recommend it to you. But what I want you to understand is these concepts and why it's effective and relevant in today's current search environment. So that's what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but there's some advanced concepts here that I want to kind of at least introduce to you. In the actual audit documents, and this is the template that I use for all audit whenever I perform or conduct an audit, a full SEO audit for our link building client. And so this is just the Word doc that I use as a template. And there's really 4 sections to the audit, which is the 4 components that I'm listing right here. And the first one is branded location authority. The second one is on-page optimization for the website. The third is the on-page optimization for the Google Business Profile. And lastly, our off-page signals, which includes branding, links, and engagement signals, which would be like user engagement signals, click-through rate, branded search and click signals, those types of things, right? So we really focus in on the branding and the links side of things here at Semantic Links. But like I said, that's the 4th component. That's the last step in a successful SEO campaign. So the other 3 things need to be done properly, or at least decently. They don't have to be perfect, but they should be done at least fairly decently in order for the links to produce the type of effect that I know that they can. So that's what I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about in today's video, which, if you order a full SEO audit, or if we recommend one to you because we've identified things through the competitive link analysis report that suggest that a full SEO audit is needed, we have these tutorial videos here that explain 3 out of the 4 components, these 3 out of these 4 components very, very thoroughly with a lot more data. I'm not going to put you through that right now, but I do want to at least talk about these kind of higher concepts at a higher level, to kind of introduce these to you and why it's important. Now, I don't have a separate explainer video for the Google Business Profile because it's not really necessary. Google Business Profiles, any SEO agency or professional that knows anything about local SEO knows that Google Business Profile should be optimized or completed to, fully completed with as much data as possible, accurate data as possible, and to be active and engaged with the GBP, posting frequently, soliciting reviews from customers or clients, responding to reviews, posting photos. Those are all kind of standard operating procedure tasks or items that pretty much anybody that's in local SEO should already know and understand. There's nothing new or special about how we should be optimizing Google Business Profiles. But the other 3 components, because of AI and large language models and the constantly evolving search environment that we're in, there are some advanced concepts that need to be addressed. And that's what I wanted to briefly describe in today's video. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the branded location authority. Now, what this means is, and it's always the first step in our full SEO audit process, because we want to identify how well developed is the knowledge graph for the specific local business location, okay? And so when I say branded business or branded location authority, what I'm talking about is specifically the knowledge graph for that particular Google Business Profile and its associated assets, because there can be an overall brand, which is really location neutral. Look, I know a lot of local businesses are single location businesses. So overall brand and branded location authority are kind of one and the same when there's only one physical location. But if it's a franchise or a multi-location business, then there's really kind of two sets of knowledge graphs that are being developed for the company or the brand. Number one is a branded knowledge graph, which is location neutral, that explains who the business is and what they do. Essentially, we as SEOs and marketing professionals can influence overall brand knowledge graph through what's known as organization schema, or any of the subtypes of organization schema. So medical organization, corporation, etc. There's a number of them. But that's basically location neutral. And then each individual business location has its own set of, or its own branded location knowledge graph, which we as marketing professionals can influence via local business schema or one of the appropriate subtypes, whatever is the most specific and appropriate, okay? But that local business schema adds that third component, which is what we, or where we do it. So who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. So kind of the third component that gets added into the knowledge graph is the location component for that business. And if it's a service area business instead of a storefront business, then it's typically going to reference the locations that fall within the service area of that specific branded location. Does that make sense? That branded business location. So each individual Google business profile, when it's a multi-location business or a franchise, has its own kind of knowledge graph specific to that location or area, depending on whether it's a storefront or a service area business. Okay. And so branded location authority is one of the most important things. And that's why it's the first point in our audit process. And also in these notes, as I'm just showing you here, it's the first component, because the most important thing in local search right now is branded location authority. If you build enough authority to a specific business location and thoroughly develop the knowledge graph, it helps it to perform much better in search, both in Google search and AI search now, because there's a lot of corroborating evidence that helps to support what the language models and the algorithms understand about that business location. So let me paint a little kind of visual, or a kind of an illustration that you can visualize as I describe this, which is, think about it like a puzzle, right? Google, if you and I were to go to Walmart and buy a puzzle, or go anywhere and buy a puzzle, we would see on the image of the box, right? The cover, the box, what the puzzle is supposed to be when it's put together. But you take the puzzle home, you dump it out onto a table, and what happens? It's a bunch of scattered pieces. It doesn't look like anything. It's just a mess. And then you have to take the time to sift and sort through the pieces and organize them and start to fit them together properly, right? Well, the more pieces that you organize and fit together, then through that kind of mess of puzzle pieces, you will start to see an image emerge from that mess, right? And then the more pieces that you find and fit together properly, the clearer or sharper that image becomes, until eventually you get all the pieces there and then you can see the full picture. Well, think about that. That's how the knowledge graphs are developed by the algorithms for the business. As it relates to Google specifically, when you verify a Google business profile, that is kind of the starting point. That's like buying the puzzle, right? But you still got to go home and put it together. And so having a verified Google business profile is the starting point, because that tells Google who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. The brand's name is who the business is, what they do, Google business categories, where they do it, where is the Google business located, Google business profile located. Do you understand? So those are the three components that Google then sets out to try to find supporting evidence online to help corroborate that information about the name, address, phone number, and website for that particular branded business location. So Google's not, and the language models, because they all operate similarly in that they have a knowledge graph developed. And that's how they determine who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. But they go out to then try to find validating data points on the web on their own. And you can imagine it's not very efficient, because they are literally crawling through trillions of web URLs to identify the needles in the haystack of any sort of external page URL that has accurate information published about that particular business location. Do you understand? So again, reinforcing name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. We know of those as citations. A business directory listing is a structured citation, but a published mention of any of those data points elsewhere on the web is also a citation. It's just an unstructured citation. But those have a significant influence on what the language models and the algorithms understand about that business location. And we can help put that puzzle together very quickly through a number of tasks or kind of steps that we can take, which is, number one, we can build more citations, both structured and unstructured. We can then take those external page URLs where there is a citation and reference them in the same as attributes of the local business schema. You can also link out to those page URLs using a Google Business post from the Google Business profile that those are relevant to, linking out to those with the Learn More button, because that's a direct linked connection from the Google Business profile to external validating page URLs on the web. In other words, every time you link out from the Google Business profile to an external page URL that has accurate information published about the business, that's like telling Google, here's another puzzle piece, Google, come fit this in to the puzzle, which is the knowledge graph, right? And so then the other way we can do it is something, I'm not going to get into this right here, but it's called an ID page strategy. If you're familiar with local SEO, local business schema, then you're probably familiar with the @ID field in the structured data. And that @ID field can be utilized specifically to tell the language models and the algorithms where they can go. If there's a dedicated resource referenced in that field, it tells them that that's where they can go to find validating and corroborating evidence about who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. And so that's kind of one of our main one of the primary things that we do for Semantic Links clients is we build an ID page in the first month, and then we collect all of the page URLs that are already indexed and those that haven't been indexed yet, and even those that we create that have a citation, and then we pull those into and reference them within the ID page. And then it's up to you to put the ID page URL in the @ID field of the local business schema. But in any case, what we're doing is we're basically assisting with discoverability, which is helping the algorithms put the puzzle together faster, right? Instead of leaving them on their own to sift and sort through trillions of web URLs to find those that are relevant, we spoon feed the relevant data points back to them so that it's very quickly they pull those data points in, and that puzzle can be put together much faster. So the image of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it becomes much clearer, much faster. And with that done properly, there can be significant deficiencies in some of these other SEO areas, and the campaign will still likely perform quite well. So branded location authority is by far the /1 factor in local SEO. And I've done a lot of testing on this over the last several years, and there's no question it's the most important thing. And because of the way that AI search or consumer search has evolved to where a lot of people are going to AI first and asking for references or recommendations, having branded location authority can help to influence the brand mention or being returned within the AI search results. So it's critically important to understand how valuable it is to be targeting building branded location authority. Okay, so that was step number one. So that's, by the way, whenever we start the full SEO audit, that's always why we start with entity analysis, because we want to determine how well developed is the knowledge graph. Because if that's underdeveloped, that has to be the first step. It should always be the first step, is to disambiguate the brand and try to build location authority to that specific branded location, which can help influence how the rest of the campaign performs. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, so then we're going to get to point number two. Point number two is on-page analysis and optimization of the website connected to the Google Business Profile. There is more of a correlation now between how the GBP performs and the website that it's linked to than I've ever seen in my career, and I've been doing local SEO for 16 years now. So it's critically important to have a well-optimized site that the GBP is linking to. And if it's not well-optimized, you're better off not having a website at all. No kidding. The Google Business Profile will perform better not linked to a website than if you have the GBP linked to a website that is optimized poorly or over-optimized or under-optimized. But the way that when we talk about on-page optimization for sites now, it's not like what it used to be either, because that has also changed and evolved a lot in the last couple of years because of language models. And so I'm not going to get so far into, all the on-page factors and the concepts here, because again, this video would go way too long. But if we were to end up suggesting a full SEO audit to you, or if you feel you would benefit from that, from a full SEO audit for any of the campaigns that you manage, by all means order one, because in the audit, we have the separate explainer video for that specific section right here, which is the on-page analysis section of the audit. And I very thoroughly explain the concepts there. But just to kind of give you an overview of that now, what we're really looking for now is entity-based optimization, not keyword-based optimization. And as a white label service provider, I analyze through competitive link analysis reports and through full SEO audits. I analyze other SEO professionals and agencies' work all the time. And I'm telling you, it's only about 20% of the projects that come through Semantic Links that are keeping up with current search kind of best practices, okay, as far as on-page optimization. All the time on calls, I get the SEO professional that I'm talking with on the call, when we get to the part and I'm talking about on-page optimization, almost everyone says, oh, well, we're really good at on-page. And then they start submitting campaigns, and it's clear that they're still following outdated, obsolete practices. We are in an entity-based algorithm. We are no longer in a keyword-based algorithm, and it's a huge difference in how we should optimize. Some of the ways that I still see SEO professionals constantly building sites, especially for local SEO campaigns, where for every single service that the company or product or service that the company provides, and for every location that they want to rank in, they have a service times city type of a page on the site for every service times every city, which creates a ton of redundancy and duplication and duplicate content, which that is a thing when there's more than one page on the same domain targeting a very similar search term. Because in the keyword world, when we used to have to optimize for keyword search, that is how we used to do it. We all did it. I did it too. That's how we used to have to optimize. But now that it's an entity-based algorithm, the way that the search results are returned is based upon entity analysis. What was the entity or entities in the search query, and how close? It's all known through distance graph and adjacency, like what are the most adjacent entities or the closely related entities to whatever was referenced in the search query. And that is how Google kind of determines it. Let me give you an example. I talk about topic and category optimization, or category and topic optimization. What is that? Well, when optimizing for Google business categories, okay, so that's whatever the Google business categories, that is broad entity optimization. And there are a whole group of search queries that Google has associated with each Google business category. And so if you optimize at the broad category or entity level, then all of the search queries associated with that category are already relevant to that page. If you optimize the page at the category level, which is entity-based optimization, then that entire page is now relevant to any search query that is related to that specific category, whether that search query is even referenced or published on the page or not. It doesn't matter. And so what I'm trying to get at is we should be optimizing it in a much more efficient way now. Less pages, less content. That makes the link building also more effective, because if there's less pages from less duplication and redundancy on the site, it makes the site more efficient, which is the second most important thing in local search behind branded location authority. Site efficiency. Think about the helpful content update. If you don't know what the helpful content update was about, as it relates to local, what the helpful content update was doing was punishing sites that use more of Google's resources than necessary. So if the site has a bunch of redundancy or technical SEO errors, or what I call points of crawl resistance, if it uses more of resources to crawl and understand the site than is necessary, that lowers the site quality score, which then influences the performance of that site and all of its pages in search. And so it's critically important to have an efficient site. And what is the way that we can increase efficiency or improve efficiency? Well, number one, get rid of the redundancy. Optimize for entities instead of keywords. And it requires a hell of a lot less pages. And because there's less pages and less redundancy, it also makes the link building more effective, because there's less internal pages for that link equity to be diluted across when you're building links to that campaign. And so it's not just about the optimizing for entities also, but it's the structure of the optimization, the overall architecture of the site, the internal linking, etc. And so that's critically important for you to understand, because we talk about this very thoroughly in our process, our full SEO audit process, where again, we have explainer videos for each of these sections. And so I just wanted to kind of give you a quick overview as to what it is that we're looking for when we analyze through a competitive link analysis report. We're looking at the on-page factors. We don't do a full SEO audit for a competitive link analysis report, because again, that's a separate service that requires a lot of my own personal time, because I personally review those for the full SEO audits and provide the detailed steps the audit document with everything broken down into these 4 components. There's a total of 19 points throughout this audit, split up between those 4 components that I just mentioned here. And then I record an explainer video where I go through and I review every one of those data points, and I describe whether it's good or needs improvement. And if it needs improvement, then I provide the specific recommendation that I suggest for that particular item. And then I explain why I'm suggesting that, because I want you to understand the concepts. I don't want to just tell you what to do. I want you to understand why I'm suggesting that, because then you're more likely to feel confident in making those changes, because it's logical and reasonable. Okay, hopefully that's clear. But what I'm getting at is, we will always look at the on-page factors when we are doing a competitive link analysis report, because if there's anything that is standing out that needs to be addressed or should be addressed before we start sending links to the campaign, I'm going to bring it to your attention, and I'm going to suggest that you get a full SEO audit. And if you choose not to, then whether the links work or not is on you, if that makes sense. If you end up getting a full SEO audit because I suggested that the campaign likely needs it, then if you get that audit from us and actually execute the changes that I recommend, then we know that the links are going to produce the kind of a result that I know that they can. And so it's in your best interest to at least consider it, because I promise you'll learn something from it. But this whole video here was just to kind of describe to you what's important in local search right now. And one of the things that we do when looking at a competitive, at a campaign before we start recommending or suggesting any links, we're going to look at these different components and see where there is room for improvement, if any, and then possibly suggest a full SEO audit if we see that there are some major items that should be addressed prior to starting a link building campaign. So this is Bradley Benner with Semantic Links. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up as to what our kind of full SEO audit service is about, because it may be required. We're going, when you submit your competitive link analysis request, we will look at the on-page factors, and the 2 most important things in local search right now are branded location authority. Should always start with that. And then number 2 is on-site or on-page optimization and site efficiency, right? Making sure that the site is efficient. So again, this is Bradley Benner with Semantic Links. I look forward to our call, and I will talk to you soon. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out and reply back to us, or save them for the call. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.